The fear is real. The terror is unimaginable. And destruction is imminent. You're at the mercy of one of Mother Nature's most erratic and destructive children, the tornado.
Tighten your seatbelt.
To witness a tornado is a spectacular sight. To live through its wake is another story. Join us as we take a thrilling ride into the eye of a storm.
What occurs is kind of like what occurred in April 3rd and 4th of 1974, what they call a super outbreak, where tornadoes from a storm system were literally 148 tornadoes were formed and dropped over about 11-state area, killing about 350 people. And so the tornadoes start out fairly small, but then each one becomes progressively larger, and they kind of herald the king.
The filmmakers of Twister went to great lengths to recreate the destructive nature of actual tornadoes.
I wanted to get a very realistic look of it. I looked at tons and tons of films, of documentaries about those tornado chases and about what sort of tornadoes look like. And it's all very rough. And I wanted to get the feeling, you know, for the audience that they were really participating in this movie, that they were making the same kind of trip, you know, through all those wild circumstances to get there.
The realistic environments created by the art and special effects departments enabled the cast to experience the violent unpredictability of a severe storm front.
Just to walk around that and just see how close it looks to the footage that I've seen, it's uncanny. And I think even the locals are kind of stunned. They're like looking around, they're going, my God, I guess this is what would happen if a tornado hit us.
What a movie like this does, it only gives you more respect for nature. Because as you're trying to duplicate just a little tiny scene, what it is you have to put into that to even come close to what the actual event would look like is phenomenal.
Creating the spectacular sets and practical effects were only one piece of the puzzle. Visualizing the various twisters that were called for in the script proved to be a formidable challenge.
An F5, which is like the most powerful tornado, that can go more than a mile wide, and with wind speeds of up to 300 miles an hour inside the core, which is like 2 to 3 times as strong as the biggest hurricane, you know, it totally pulverizes everything. Nothing is left. It's like it never even existed before. So the power is unbelievable.
What I think Jan has done to bring people as close to a tornado as you'd ever want to get without ever having to hurt yourself whatsoever. And it's ominous. And the footage that ILM has done, it's wild. It's just a wild ride.
This challenge to create the over 300 intricate visual effects shots needed for the film was taken on by Stephen Fangmeyer and his fellow wizards at George Lucas's Industrial Light and Magic in Northern California.
We have done a lot of testing before we started the movie because we wanted to make absolutely sure that we could do that in a realistic way. And the test turned out to be very good, very successful, and that kind of convinced us to make the movie, basically. Kind of another breakthrough, which is kind of nice, because the movie being shot in a documentary way, the effects has to have the same feeling to it. It's very, very hard to do.
Before production began, painstaking research was conducted to make sure that the tornadoes depicted in Twister would look and react like their real-life counterparts.
I think every sequence has a different looking tornado, and there's a lot of reference out there, and what we have found that hardly any tornado in that reference, which are mostly sort of home videos, unfortunately because quality isn't so great, that we can just imagine what the thing would look like if you ever captured anything on high quality film. But there's a lot of range out there, so we spend a lot of time looking at those tapes and figuring out, okay, what is interesting about particular tornadoes. It starts out as a line. A tornado would be much as its spine, sort of moving along, and we often determine the speed, the travel of it, also its sort of movement, how does it deform on this axis, animating just that spine, so to speak. And then we fill in with the particles the motion of the debris and the air molecules around that spine. Since a lot of our work previously has been that we model a certain surface, like a creature, like a T-Rex. Now with a tornado isn't really a confined surface like that, and it's just sort of dust moving around. You really have to show that it's made out of billions of trillions of little particles and have them all behave by a certain rule set with, of course, some turbulence built in. So it's really moving a lot of particles and clumps them together to make it look with the different color ranges to sort of make it look like debris.
Once the initial wireframe models were created and approved, they became fully realized, taking on color, form, and texture. All the live-action elements were then combined to form a finished or composite shot. Creating realism and scope was essential to the filmmakers. Besides generating the actual twisters, objects such as tractors, tankers, and even a cow, which normally would be impossible to capture and control, were easily created in the computer environment. Sometimes, even Mother Nature needs to be pushed. ILM also enhanced numerous scenes, transforming picture-perfect shooting days into storm-filled ones. Each stage of the process was then presented to director Jan de Bont for his approval. After months of intense post-production, the Twister team at ILM finally let their efforts speak for themselves.
And Jan is really sort of, his curve just keeps on going up, until the end of the film. And his dynamics is, once, he says go, really got to keep that level up in the film. So every shot, more or less, really has to be pretty pumped up. And that's kind of fun. Once you get into that spirit and understand it, it's kind of fun to just sort of play everything out that way. And it's really a different way. It feels, in some way, more like you're going on a ride. And I think it makes our work with Jan so excellent, our cooperation, is that we sort of understand his style. And I think he appreciates also all the things we can put in that he just on location could have never planned out at that point in time or really executed there.
Yeah.
What makes Twister so exciting, I think, is the fact that tornadoes are unpredictable and they shoot down at any moment, and you're chasing it. You're basically chasing the weather. It's man against nature.
You're basically driving that car at one point. You're one of those guys, the audience is one of those chasers, and trying to search for that tornado. It's like we all want to be close to danger. You don't get too close, but close enough so that we get the adrenaline going.
I think whenever you can deal with phenomenal natural events, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, fires, things like that, we tend to think of them as being extraordinarily beautiful at the same time that they're extremely dangerous. And in this case, tornadoes are incredibly fascinating. And the minute you see the sky and the lightning and then the formation of a tornado, you can't take your eyes off it.